Alrighty everyone, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Glad to see you guys all in here. Hopefully everybody is having a fantastic Monday so far, at least as good of a Monday as you can possibly have. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump right on into this. We do have an active tornado warning. I'm going to go ahead and refresh that. We'll jump on over here. Everything looks good enough. We've got a tornado warning out here in Mississippi, and I believe this storm actually produced a brief tornado just a couple minutes ago, roughly about 15 minutes ago. I believe we had a quick tornado on the ground southeast of Denmark in Mississippi. And if we just go to our current scan, you can see we are starting to see a little bit of notching happening here just north of Randolph in Mississippi. And because of that little notching, we've seen a response on velocity where we have a little uptick in some wind speed. So because of that, the NWS out here has decided to issue a tornado warning. We also have another area we are watching back out here towards Russellville, Alabama for the potential of severe weather, 60-mile-an-hour winds, roughly 1-inch hail, as well as the potential for a tornado with that severe storm. I'm going to open another radar site. We also have another storm I've been watching for the last couple of hours. Back out here, we have a storm in southern Mississippi, which it is still tornado possible, as well as 1.25-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. So there you go. Those are the main areas to watch right now. We've got that severe south central Mississippi. We also have the severe back up into Alabama. And then we have our tornado warning that we are going to be watching very, very closely here as it attempts to produce a tornado over the next couple of minutes. So we'll continue to monitor that really, really closely. So let's go ahead and dive on into today's risk. Well, first off, we have a severe thunderstorm watch out by the Storm Prediction Center. So if you are in the pink area, make sure you are weather aware today. There's a chance for severe thunderstorms, especially if you live across central northeastern Mississippi, and especially if you live towards central and northern Alabama. That is the main area we are watching right in here. Is the main region we are going to be watching for severe weather today. And then there is a conditional risk for a strong, not a strong tornado, my bad. Conditional risk for a tornado down here in southern Mississippi. And there is a conditional risk for a strong tornado back up here in Alabama and northern Mississippi. If we can get a storm to ride along the best ingredients, which we'll go over that in just a minute. You can see 5% tornado risk is out here. Good job by the SPC already nailing that first tornado warning. I believe first tornado warning of the day out here across Mississippi. So good on the SPC nailing that 5% risk. Let's just go ahead and check on that again. Yep, you could see your red. So those are winds going. Always make sure you know where your radar is. That's where our radar is. So red is winds going away from our radar, which means this is inflow going into the storm. And then we have green is winds going towards the radar, which is our, in this case, kind of outflow, if you would like to put it that way. So you've got winds going towards the radar, winds going away from the radar, and that is creating a very weak area of rotation right in here. And because it's also got a hook echo, definitely a good warranted tornado warning there. And we're also going to be watching this storm too. They don't have it as Tor possible, but I would be watching it because of those velocities pretty close to each other. So now let's go ahead and switch on over to our categorical risk here. I'll switch that back on, switch that off, turn that on, and there you go. So if you are in the yellow area, that's our slight risk for severe weather. Now, if you are on the west side of this, your risk is pretty much done. If you live anywhere in this area, your risk is pretty much over for today. But if you are really in much of this region, your risk is either ongoing or yet to begin if you live back out in here. Especially if you are out there, again, in that yellow area in Mississippi and Alabama. That's going to be the main area to watch for severe weather today. Like I showed you moments ago, we do have a 5% tornado risk out here across Mississippi and Alabama. That 2% goes all the way into southern Mississippi for that conditional tornado risk. Again, I wouldn't rule out a brief strong tornado up here and a brief tornado or two. Not a high-end day, just a brief tornado or two. Maybe one could potentially be strong. And again, brief, likely going to be brief, not looking at a long-tracked tornado threat today by any means. Damaging wind risk there, you can see a pretty big 15% in that yellow. And then your hail risk just barely displaced off to the southwest. Big 15% and 5% hatched there as well. So a pretty good risk for large hail today. Although I don't really see hail being much of an issue. They do have that hatched risk out, but honestly, not really impressed with today's environment in terms of hail. I think our best chance for hail will be if we get any type of elevated thunderstorms across northern Alabama. However, that seems unlikely to happen, so not really too worried about the hail threat for today. All right, before we go on to the next outlook, let's go and check back with our new scan here. Just some broad rotation, nothing very significant, nothing that I think is imminently ongoing. So just make sure you're in your safe spot if you're in that tornado warning, which again is for Randolph and surrounding areas in northeastern Mississippi. It's in northeastern Mississippi. All right, and whilst that is ongoing here, I'll just go ahead and switch back to velocity. Yeah, so still that tornado warning ongoing. Let's go ahead and talk about tomorrow's risk. That's the big day. Big day for tomorrow. A large chunk of the central U.S. under the gun for severe weather, with two very obvious main threats for severe weather. One up there in the Midwest, and then one back down in here in Texas. So we got a double barrel enhanced risk for severe weather here for tomorrow. And it is pretty impressive. It is definitely pretty impressive. We've had uptrends over the last about 48 hours ever since I last did a live stream. Really, we've been trending towards a more substantial severe weather threat for Tuesday, which is now tomorrow at this point. So that's your categorical risk there. We've got a level 1 in the dark green, level 2 in the yellow, and level 3 in both of those enhanced risks. Let's see here. Let's go to our tornado risk as well. So you can see our tornado risk. They did extend that hatched risk. I believe that hatched risk just looks a bit different, actually. Did they extend this quite a bit? Hold on, y'all. I'm going to go look. Looks pretty different from when I last saw it earlier today. Let's see. Ooh, tornado warning updated, or possibly a new one. Yes, they did shift it off to the east-northeast. I thought so. I was like, it looks a little bit different. It's further into Indiana there. Okay, real quick. Still radar indicated. So there is your hatched risk there in the black hatched area. That is your significant 1 threat, your SIG 1 threat, which means maximum reasonable intensity is an EF2 tornado across those areas. And you can see we do have a 10% hatched risk also across Illinois back into Indiana. So definitely think there's the risk for a couple of strong tornadoes tomorrow. Definitely think there's a risk for an intense tornado or two. And I also believe there is a risk for an isolated, long-tracked, intense tornado if a storm can get latched on along the warm front there, likely somewhere in Illinois into Indiana. So I think that placement is really, really good. And I do think we could debate about a SIG-2 risk being issued by the SPC for tomorrow. It's definitely tricky there. The biggest thing is it is very conditional. So that's why I don't think we will see a moderate risk. Because if we go to 15%, that is a less conditional threat. Whereas if we stay to 10%, it still could be a little conditional, but it's not like to the point where we're talking about a, maybe a high-end tornado outbreak or a major tornado outbreak being possible for tomorrow. So I don't think tomorrow is quite yet moderate caliber. I would agree if we get a 2 SIG tour, or if we get or if they just leave it like this. If we get a SIG-2 tour, I would agree with that. Or even if they just leave it with a 10% SIG-1. But I do think, honestly, a SIG-2 might be needed for tomorrow just because of the environment and also how conditional it is. It is a very conditional threat. There's a lot of caveats for tomorrow. We've got dew points potentially being an issue, temperatures potentially being an issue, storms being north of the warm front being an issue, clustered storms being an issue, over convection as well being an issue, even the chance for some afternoon convection that could form before the main event being a possibility. Some also sinking air that could inhibit storms from initiating. So there's a lot of bust modes for tomorrow. It is definitely by far a conditional threat. Not so much down here in Texas. I do think we will see a 10 significant tornado risk introduced back out here in Texas as well. I think we could see a couple of strong tornadoes, maybe even an intense tornado for Texas tomorrow. But the main threat in Texas will be ginormous hail. I do think we'll also have the risk for upwards of 4-inch in diameter hail. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see a 2 SIG hail risk for tomorrow as well. I keep saying 2 SIG. I mean SIG-2 risk. SIG-2 risk for hail tomorrow. I wouldn't be shocked if we see it, wouldn't be shocked if we don't see it. It just depends on the SPC's confidence, but from what I've looked at on the model runs, I think we are definitely looking at the threat for 3.5 to 4-inch hail being a possibility across Texas tomorrow. Also, damaging winds will be an issue as well. Wind gusts could approach upwards of roughly 80 miles per hour. If you're in that red hatched area, you're looking at a 30% chance every 25 miles of a given point for wind gusts at or exceeding 74 miles per hour. So the hail risk and the wind risk is the biggest threat tomorrow in Texas. However, I think that tornado risk will follow very, very soon, as I think the SPC would may upgrade to a 10 significant for this area as well. So we'll go over models in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and take another look here at our storms. Little area of velocity there, northwest of Hackleburg, Alabama. Little area of velocity still in our tornado warning. Yeah, supercell, semi-discrete supercell firing there in Grenada, Mississippi. And then also down back here into Mississippi. This looks like it's dying out, so that's good. So that looks like it's starting to die out. Might not be as much of an issue, but definitely want to watch these three storms up here in Mississippi, and still going to keep an eye on that one in southern Mississippi too. By the way, this one is in Alabama actually. So 3 in Mississippi and 1 in Alabama to keep an eye on for right now. None of them look overly impressive. I have a good feeling this one is corruption because it's so far from the radar. All right, let's go ahead and talk about model data. Let's go ahead and look at some model runs. Everybody's favorite thing. So here is the HRRR 18Z for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and pull this all the way out here. This is 4 p.m. Eastern. That's when we're expecting storms to likely begin to initiate across south central Texas. And watch how quickly these explode. If we go and look at our instability, you could see our instability setup here. This is our main area for instability. Wind shear, plenty of wind shear, especially on the southern end there. Not a lot of lower level wind shear, so that could be a potential issue unless it's maxed out. Okay, yeah, not a lot of lower level wind shear there. But you could see the main area for tornadoes would definitely be right out in south central Texas. But as we go later on in the day here, this is 5 p.m., 6 p.m. now, you can see that strong tornado threat may grow quite a bit more. So I do think we should see a 10 significant tornado risk for tomorrow. Another reason why is because these storms will likely end up firing relatively semi-discrete to clustered at first. So I think for like the first 2 or 3 hours of this event, from roughly 5 p.m. to roughly 7 p.m., we will have the risk for a strong tornado, maybe even an intense tornado. Really, the main thing to watch is going to be depending on that lower level wind shear. I think that's going to be something that could keep tomorrow's tornado threat out here in Texas potentially underperforming from what some model runs are showing, like this model here. But regardless of our tornado threat, we are looking at ginormous hail, likely 3.5 to 4 inch in diameter being a possibility. And then after that hail threat begins to grow more upscale, we'll start to see multiple storms fire, and we'll be looking at a widespread damaging wind threat of 60 to 80 mile per hour winds out in front of that, which it will be a little bit more northeast than that, more like in here. We'll be looking at a widespread damaging wind threat. So at first, isolated damaging winds, extremely large hail, a few tornadoes, maybe even one strong and or intense, then growing upscale into large hail, maybe definitely less than if it were discrete. So definitely, at first we could see those hailstones upwards of 3.5 to 4 inch in diameter. But then tomorrow, as we get towards the evening hours, things grow more into line, so that hail threat goes down, probably closer to 1 inch to 2 inch in diameter being possible. Damaging wind threat grows, and then that tornado threat still will be present. We could see a couple spin-up tornadoes embedded inside of that line. So initially an all hazards threat, and then later on, as things grow upscale, the hail threat decreases a bit, and the strong tornado threat decreases exponentially. And you can see this damaging wind threat could even last into the overnight hours. It depends exactly when storms will fire, but most likely this will last up until roughly 1 or 2 a.m. Eastern time, somewhere out here in Texas, southeast Oklahoma, into southwestern Arkansas. Quicker storms fire, the quicker they're going to move east, and the further that threat could be severe, even into western Arkansas, southeastern Oklahoma. So very impressive hail threat, very impressive wind threat, and a quite impressive tornado threat on that southern mode. Now, let's go up into Kansas and look at Kansas. Kansas is pretty conditional. I don't see anything really being a huge issue here. We could see a spin-up brief tornado as well as 60-mile-an-hour winds. I think the main threat in this area is going to end up being hail upwards of roughly 2 inch in diameter. But I don't really see anything being a giant issue there other than some isolated large hail. And then we could go to our main tornado threat. Let's take a look at our dew points first. So you can see here, something's moving there. So that's what's going to help firestorms. All those dew points pushing up north rapidly. That could help firestorms. And I do think we're looking at a very late evening into the nocturnal hours tornado threat. And it's going to be roughly in this area where it sets up. It depends greatly on exactly where that warm front sets up. If it sets up more north, we could be looking at a strong tornado threat, maybe even as far north as Chicago. If it doesn't set up that far north, then that northern tornado threat is not going to be present at all. So it just depends where that a warm front sets up here in Iowa back into Michigan. Temperatures could be an issue. The HRRR does not have temperatures being an issue whatsoever. You are into the likely low 70s with those dew points into the mid to upper 60s. So very favorable environment, very favorable instability, widespread instability of 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. And it does get capped as storms fire, but really we're going to be looking for storms to fire roughly about 5, maybe 6 p.m. And there's a lot of uncertainty on that. If we look at our reflectivity, this particular run is very sloppy. And you know what? This would barely even be a tornado threat. Let's just draw that out. So warm front is right here. Yeah, only that southern storm would be a tornado threat. So these would be hailers, these would be hailers, these would just be heavy rain showers. The only tornado threat in this particular scenario is this guy right here. But that's the problem, because that is latched onto a warm front, which means if we take a look at our updraft helicity tracks here, that would be a long-tracked, strong to intense tornado threat there. That would be a very, very big problem. But again, everything north of that, all these updrafts, all that is hail. And if you get even more north of that, you're looking at really just rain. So, very conditional day. That's why I think the SPC may pull that SIG 2 risk. Because if a storm does latch onto that warm front, it's likely going to be long-tracked. A long-tracked supercell threat, potentially long-tracked tornado threat with an intense tornado as well. But it just depends on if a storm can fire on that warm front. You could see here, even in this case too, there's another storm. If we just draw that out, there's your warm front again. There's another storm here that looks like it would be a big tornado threat, but it's actually just north of that front. So you're looking at an elevated hailer. So my thoughts on tomorrow, this is like a perfect 10% SIG 2 day. Or a perfect 5 SIG 2 day. I'd say 10 SIG 2. That's really what this is. This is like the perfect day to use that SPC, the new SPC graphics to their advantage. Because you're looking at a volatile environment that is capable of producing long-tracked, intense tornadoes. But storms may not even fire on that warm front. Y'all are saying no mic, but I've got a reading here. I literally hear myself. Refresh. There you go. Yeah, I'm literally still... That's probably YouTube's platform. That's literally just probably YouTube being stupid. I gotta go see that tornado warning here. Alright, that completely fell apart. That's great. Let's look at GR2 here, just to make sure. Yeah. That fell right apart. I mean, I don't know what else to blame. It ain't on my end. I could blame your devices, but considering it's happening to multiple people, I highly doubt it's individual devices. It's most likely YouTube itself. I didn't see any buffering when I looked, so I'm guessing it is on YouTube's end. See, that's the good thing also about having that timer right there, because I can go back in my live stream and see if that like skipped from, for instance, 22:09:20 to like 22:09:50. And then that helps me be able to determine if my thing's bugging or not. Also, yeah, new severe there for Hackleburg, Alabama. Just make sure you're away from doors and windows. You'll be good. But yeah, back over to this. If you guys didn't hear me because YouTube was being stupid, I think this is the perfect scenario for the SPC to pull out either a 10 SIG 2 or a 5% SIG 2. Because what we're looking at is a conditional threat for supercells to fire. If they don't fire, it's a complete bust. If they do fire, it's a long-tracked, intense tornado threat. So I think this is the perfect scenario for the SPC to use those new SPC graphics that they put out recently. Because, like I said, all it takes is literally that one storm to fire and be discreet and ride that warm front. Then you have the NAM, which is just being the NAM. Even the NAM still shows a good environment, though. Storms that fire north of the front may be moving northeast, but if storms fire on the front, they should be moving almost due east. Because if you look here, that front is essentially just a straight line. It's essentially just a straight line. So really, storms that fire in our main risk in Illinois should move east, maybe slightly northeast. Do you think central Indiana is in a bad spot altogether? It looks like most of the threat is in northern Indiana. Yeah, like if you're talking about chasing wise, yeah. Yeah, like if I were chasing this, I would definitely be targeting. I'd be targeting probably near Bloomington, maybe a little bit more north. So even though you are in that SIG threat out in Indiana, once you get towards like Indianapolis and south, your threat really decreases drastically. Or even like Lafayette and south. We're really looking at a conditional severe risk for tomorrow. So, it could be a big day, could be absolutely nothing. It's just how it is. That's why the SPC has those new graphics, because they realized a lot of threats in tornado season are actually conditional. Thank you for the $2 donation, Oversteer. Look at Jonesboro, Arkansas for Tuesday, Wednesday. You're in an overnight threat, which is why you said Tuesday, Wednesday, because you already know it's going to be overnight. Definitely damaging winds being possible. Maybe some small hail. And possibly a brief tornado. Right now, I think the greatest threat on Wednesday is going to be focused from southeastern Arkansas, eastern Texas, down into central Louisiana and southern Mississippi. I think that's going to be a big area to watch for severe weather on Wednesday. And I do think we could see a conditional strong tornado threat depending on how things evolve here. We'll need to watch for prefrontal supercells Wednesday afternoon. If this model run is correct, which I think there is a chance that it is. And then there is a secondary area to watch back up here from roughly central Pennsylvania all the way back down into southwestern Indiana and then all the way into northern Virginia. A lot of uncertainty regarding that, though. High uncertainty on if we're going to have big time issues with overconvection, and very high uncertainty on where that boundary of the best ingredients may set up. It's not a sharp boundary at all, but it's going to be a boundary really in terms of your best instability. So like roughly in here, you're going to be looking at 1,000 CAPE, whereas north of that, you're going to be looking at 500 or less CAPE. So it's not really a boundary, it's more of an instability axis. It's really what it is, where the CAPE is just the best. And the NAM model is one of the more aggressive ones. That actually has no instability axis. It just has your warm front up here and then your cold front. So that leads to a significantly greater severe weather threat from western Pennsylvania all the way back down into southeastern Indiana on Wednesday. If you haven't seen the outlook for Wednesday, here you go. Ginormous slight risk all the way from central Virginia back up into eastern Pennsylvania, southwestern New York into eastern Michigan, all the way down into eastern Texas, all the way to the Gulf coastline in Louisiana, Mississippi, southern Alabama, back into western Florida, and then all the way back up into the Carolinas. Oversteer, I don't really think so. I think you are almost in a perfect spot to where you're going to avoid tomorrow's risk and possibly avoid Wednesday's risk. You're almost in that perfect transition spot where we're transitioning between Tuesday and Wednesday. There is a slim chance it could uptrend, yeah. But if it uptrends, it's going to be for extreme eastern Arkansas. Like in here. Extreme east to southeastern Arkansas. If it does uptrend for the state of Arkansas, it would be over there. I don't think it would be back into Jonesboro. Jonesboro is like roughly in here. It'd be close for Jonesboro. But see, it depends on the timing of that front. Because if the front's slower, Jonesboro gets a higher severe threat. That shifts your entire threat. Instead of it being, you know, back out in here where the HRRR has, now it's actually back out in here. Closer to Jonesboro. Let's see, new HRRR for today. Yeah, today our biggest severe threat is going to be with that southern storm and as well as with our cluster up here. So cluster up here and southern severe. Those are the two main areas for severe weather today. Main threat by a milestone is hail on both of those storms, followed by damaging winds upwards of 75 miles per hour. Or upwards of, technically, like, upwards of 73 miles per hour, if you go by the SIG category. And then we could see a brief tornado or two. And I was mentioning earlier in the stream a strong tornado threat being possible, but as long as storms stay this clustered, we won't see that being an issue. But if we can get, like, this southern storm to be a little bit more semi-discreet, we could see an isolated, brief, strong tornado. But right now, that doesn't seem too likely. So tomorrow I have plans, unfortunately. The good news is those plans end at 3:30. So I should be able to live stream our main event, assuming all goes well. I should be able to live stream the main event. But I'm not too sure when to start up the live stream because I'm not really wanting to cover the entire event. So we'll see. We may attempt to do another split live stream tomorrow where we start up a live stream as quick as possible, right when I'm able to get here. Roughly about 4 o'clock. And then we just track from there and see how things look. And then, you know, if they look crazy, we stay on. If they don't look that bad, then we split it up. Low-key gonna have, like, what? Do we have, like, 4 fronts tomorrow? They say we don't. I don't know. Because we're gonna have a double low. We're gonna have a double low here. So if we go to dew points, let's go to this. Yeah, so you can see your low pressure back up into Iowa and Illinois. So not a very obvious second warm front. I was thinking maybe we would have a second warm front there. You know what, though? This actually isn't even a warm front. So you've got a low pressure here and roughly a low pressure here. This low pressure has a cold front connected to this low, which connects to another cold front, which goes down in here. And this is a cold front, warm front, which guess what? Connects to another low pressure up here, which guess what? Turns back into a cold front, which connects to another low pressure up here, which connects to, guess what? A cold front that continues up into Canada. That eventually back up into, like, freaking I don't even know how far northeast that would be. That would be like up towards like Quebec. So very complex setup. A lot of weak low pressures. This is your main low though. This is your main low pressure for tomorrow. Because without that, none of this stuff would fire down here. So this is your main low. If you take a look at your 500 millibar, you could see that's your main trough right there. So this threat is from a shortwave back up into the Midwest, which is why we have a dual severe weather risk, because you have your main trough down here, which is initiating that severe threat down in Texas, which is why I think the threat for significant severe weather in Texas is a lot less conditional than back up here along the cold front, warm front. So if I were guaranteeing, like if I were really wanting to see something, I would go to Texas. There is that conditional intense tornado threat, long track intense tornado threat in Illinois. However, if I'm going to be making a trip, 15 hours, I'm going to make sure I'm going to see something. And in order for that to happen, I'm going to go to Texas. So, pretty much a guaranteed severe threat in here. Actually, roughly in here. Pretty much a guaranteed severe threat. Back towards the more west you go here, I'll show you. Guaranteed severe threat, especially right in here, where we could be looking at 60 to 80 mile an hour wind gust, 1.5 to 2 inch hail being a very high likelihood, with even some hailstones up to 3.5 to 4 inch in diameter, and multiple tornadoes, maybe even one strong to intense, depending if we get a discrete supercell. Both of our threats for intense tornadoes are conditional. We could see a strong tornado threat down here, potentially embedded in a cluster, but in order to get an intense tornado threat, you're probably going to have to see one of those discrete supercells get ahead of the main cluster. So here's your main linear, either linear mess or clustery mess in here. And an intense tornado threat would come from a storm like that with big time hail and an all significant hazards threat. And then back up here into Illinois, all of these storms are elevated, so you'll have to get a discrete supercell to ride that warm front. So an intense tornado threat is definitely conditional tomorrow, but I think a strong tornado threat, either on both modes actually, a strong tornado threat on the southern mode and the northern mode is a little bit more likely. So again, southern mode, pretty much guarantee of severe weather, but your tornado threat, especially an intense tornado threat, is very conditional. Northern mode, completely conditional. You can get some big time elevated hailstorms on the north side, but pretty much of your tornado threat on the northern side is conditional. It all depends on if storms fire on and south of that warm front. So I do think we will see a SIG 2. I think this is one of the perfect examples for the SPC to pull out a SIG 2. See, at 15%, the thing is, the higher you go with the percent, the more confident we are. We're not confident in supercells tomorrow. Tomorrow is easily, right now at this point, a 5 SIG 2 risk. Because there's not high confidence in supercells firing. So I'm a little surprised I even pulled that 10 SIG. But right now, tomorrow is an absolute classic 5% SIG 2 risk. But the SPC has more confidence in supercells firing, which is why they have that 10% there. And then, like I said, I'm not really too impressed back in Kansas. I think Kansas will mainly be a big hail threat. I think the enhanced risk will be expanded into Waco. No. No. If we take a look here, let's go all the way out to 5 o'clock when storms are expected to explode along that front. Yeah, and you can see Waco is pretty well removed from all the severe threat until the overnight hours after Really, you're looking at, where did Waco go? Oh, there's Waco. You're really looking at midnight or after. No, I don't think Waco will be put in the enhanced. If there's going to be any expansion of the enhanced risk, it would be further deeper into Texas. Northern Texas, further into Dallas, and closer to Paris, Texas, for that damaging wind threat. And then up north, I don't really see a need for an enhanced risk expansion either. I think the main thing that could change is our tornado outlook. If we look at that tornado outlook, I think we're going to see a 10% SIG 1 down in here. So just an increase in the tornado probabilities, but the SIG risk stays the same. And then I hope we don't see a 15%, but I think we'll end up seeing a 10% SIG 2 back up in here. And basically what that means is there's a more conditional threat for supercells on this northern mode, but if storms fire, there's a better chance to see stronger tornadoes. And on this southern mode, there is a about an equal chance for tornadoes to form as the northern mode. However, the chance for strong tornadoes is a little bit less on this southern mode than the northern mode. Both intense tornado threats, which is EF3 or greater, revolve around discrete storms. No discrete storms fire, you're looking at a very low intense tornado threat. Just choose the right radar here. Sweet. Is this thing already dying out? Love it. It's not fully dead yet, but it looks like it's dying out. Cincinnati, Ohio. I'd be watching Wednesday very, very closely. Back in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's in Southwest Ohio. We're really watching this entire area right now for a tornado threat, a good tornado threat on Wednesday. And it all comes down to the timing of it. Timing of this front. If the front's slower, there's a more likelihood for tornadoes. If the front's faster, it's a more likelihood of it being a line of damaging winds. So either way, I think Cincinnati will end up with severe weather. I don't think Kansas City's going to see much of a supercell threat. I think mainly we're looking at a hail threat and wind threat in Cincinnati. Or not Cincinnati, my bad. Kansas City. My goodness, my bad. Confusing the cities here. So here's Kansas City in Missouri, and I think we're looking at really just a clustered mess of hail. That's what I'm thinking. A clustered mess of hail. Maybe some embedded damaging winds in there. Wouldn't fully rule out a tornado, but the tornado threat is not very high in Kansas City. Oversteer, it's hard to say. Either it's going to be in the afternoon or early morning. Well, we got to wait for storms to fire tomorrow. And that's what we got to wait for. We have to wait for storms to fire tomorrow to figure out how fast they're moving. And once we know that, then we can roughly calculate, when storms will occur the following day on Wednesday. Yeah, no doubt it has moderate potential. It just depends on if confidence increases in supercells firing. If confidence increases in supercells firing, it's going to go moderate. By the way, which that is a 15% SIG 2 risk. But I just don't see that happening because there's a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of bust modes. Like if your dew points are a little bit lower, your temperatures are a little bit higher, then you're going to have a problem with elevated thunderstorms. If your instability doesn't go as far north and doesn't hang right along that warm front, then even if storms fire on the warm front, there could be a little bit lack of instability, or that warm front could be too far south. Wind shear shouldn't be a problem as long as storms are on the warm front or south of it. And then cloud cover could be a problem, You got to have that perfect balance. If you have no cloud cover, temperatures are going to rise too high, then you'll have more of an elevated thunderstorm risk. And that means that storms won't be surface-based, thus lowering your tornado potential. If you have too much cloud cover, that could keep instability from really increasing in the day, and that could also decrease lapse rates, which could, in return, hurt the chance for supercells to fire. It's hard to say if you'll be upgraded to an enhanced risk, but I think there is a chance for an enhanced risk back into Louisiana if that damaging wind threat does come to fruition. So if you do get an enhanced, it's probably going to be for wind. Pittsburgh Wednesday. Like I said, you're just going to really have to watch to see how models evolve. It all comes down to the timing of storms, and we just won't know that until storms fire tomorrow. We won't know any type of timing for Wednesday till tomorrow afternoon. Or really tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. But yeah, I would definitely... 2 areas I'd be watching out the most in for Wednesday. That northern mode up in here is 1. And then roughly that southern mode roughly down in here. And it depends on exactly the timing of the front, but somebody in the middle is going to escape with just light rain. This area could literally get just light rain and nothing else. If you look on here, you can see this particular model run actually shows light rain all the way up into Ohio. So a lot of people escape from severe weather in that specific scenario. Let's see. You're far enough east to where I don't think severe weather will be a huge issue tomorrow. Because it's going to end up being an overnight threat for you. So either way, as storms approach you, they should be on a weakening trend. Your best bet is definitely for damaging winds about 60 miles an hour. And you do have to watch Wednesday too, because it depends on the timing of these storms. If this front's slower, severe storms could form over your area. If the front is quicker, storms are going to form to your east, and you won't have much of an issue on Wednesday. Yeah, right now, I guess they're going with 10% Tor because they're really tomorrow could either uptrend or downtrend, you know? So they're kind of right in the middle. Like I said, right now it is like the perfect 5% SIG2 risk. But if it uptrends, it's going to go right up to 15 SIG2. Which again, for those who are confused, because I know not everyone's heard about that new outlook yet. Basically, the higher the SIG level, the higher the intensity of that said threat is. So a SIG 1 threat is the chance for EF2 tornadoes. A SIG 2 threat is the chance for EF3 tornadoes. And then a SIG 3 threat is a chance for EF4 or EF5 tornadoes. So it goes exactly like this. If you are not in a hatched area, EF0, EF1. If you're in a level 1 hatched area, which is a SIG 1, that is EF2. If you're in a SIG 2, EF3. SIG 3, EF4, or EF5. Which I'll show you what those look like. So here's the new SIG risks for those who haven't seen it. Let's go all the way down past that. You know what? Actually, get me out of that and get me here. There you go. So the hatched dotted lines for tornadoes, that means EF2 intensity tornadoes possible. The solid diagonal lines mean EF3 tornadoes possible. And then the diamond solid lines going in all directions means EF4 or EF5 tornadoes possible. So when we're talking about typically for a 5% or a 10% day, most of the time you're going to end up with a chance for this level, intensity 1. And when you get to 15%, risk, most of the time you're going to be talking about this level, intensity 2. And then when you get to a 30% chance for tornadoes or a 45% chance, you're going to be talking about these two being the most likelihood. I'll show you that chart again because I want to show you something else too, for those who haven't seen this either. So here is your risk for tornadoes, and you can see here, if I just pull this down, for your SIG risks. So SIG 3 cannot be issued for a marginal 2% risk. So you cannot have a SIG 2% TOR. You cannot have a SIG 3 5% TOR. That's not possible. They don't use those. And then again, in order for us to get a moderate risk tomorrow, we have to jump to not only a SIG 2 risk, but we also got to jump up to a 15% chance for tornadoes. So if we stay SIG 1, say there's increased confidence for supercells to fire on the warm front, but they may not be as intense as originally thought, like the environment downtrends, but the chance for supercells uptrend, they may increase it to a 15% SIG 1. And in that case, it would still be an enhanced risk level 3 out of 5. And what still, weather community is still like a little bit crazy on a risk here. There is a chance that you could actually get a moderate risk, 45% chance for tornadoes being SIG 1. So it's going to take a little while to get used to these new outlooks. I'm starting to get there, but it's definitely going to take some time getting used to seeing the chance that we could literally have a 60% non-SIG TOR risk and it still be enhanced. Still kind of crazy. But if you really think about it, it makes sense. Because on paper, yeah, that looks insane, right? It looks insane. The fact that you could have a 60% tornado risk and it end up being a level 3 out of 5. But as the SPC discussed, typically the most impactful events, those are going to have your moderate and your high risk, your level 4 and your level 5. And the most impactful things from those events are typically significant. So like an EF2 to EF5 tornado, 70 to 80 mile an hour winds, or like 1.75 to 3-inch hail. It's going to be significant hazards that end up doing the most damage and are the most memorable. You're not going to remember, most of us aren't going to remember a 50, 60 mile an hour wind gust, a 1/2 inch to 1-inch hail. You're not going to remember that. And you're probably not even going to remember an EF0 tornado. Those don't do much damage or have much significant impacts. Now, if an EF4 tornado happens, there's a high chance you're going to remember that for the rest of your life if it hits around your area. Which is why when you start getting to SIG 2 and SIG 3, those risks go up very quickly. Like a SIG 2 is a slight risk, and then a SIG 3 10% is enhanced, SIG 3 15% moderate, SIG 3 30% is a high. Because significant hazards are typically way more memorable and do way more damage than weaker hazards. So, yes, it's very confusing, and it's going to be difficult to convey to the public, but it's extraordinarily informative. It really helps with that possibility and, not being able to convey conditional hazards on the SPC Outlook. So I still think it is, when it was first released, I was like, okay, this is kind of crazy and I don't really like it. But, once you start getting used to it, 2-3 days, it's like, man, this is actually going to be extremely helpful and useful. Then it is extremely confusing to the general public, believe me. If I showed this to my family members and I told them, what hazards does each one of these hatching mean, they're not going to be able to tell me it. It is very confusing for the general public. You got to think, even this, the basic categorical risk. Gracious day. Even this is confusing for some members of the public. Just this categorical risk. And that's why they cleaned it up a lot. You know, they made it look a lot smoother, and they made those legends a lot higher, and they included the level, you know, the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, and the number 5. Yeah, and then those tornado, the wind risk, and the hail risk. I mean, these are just... Really, this is what the general public is going to see the most. This right here. This is what your weather app's going to show you the most. This is what meteorologists in your local area are going to show you the most. They're not going to dive really deep into these tornado probability, hail probability, and wind probabilities. Most of them will convey this. So, like this hatching, this is really made for meteorologists to look at mostly like off the air, so that way they can communicate in a better sense when they go on the air what this means for their area. Because if a meteorologist goes and shows this, and then this, and then this, and then this, it's probably going to confuse people. Because you'll end up being like, okay, why am I in the maxed hazard for this, but I'm in a lower hazard for this, but then I'm in a max hazard for this, so does that mean it may not be as bad as if it was all maxed? So maybe I'm not going to prepare as much as if they were all maxed. Which is why you should really just... This like, for my family members, especially, like, family members outside of this house that I can't communicate with the hazards, I just send them this map, and I say, hey, you're in the level 2 out of 5... yellow area. Get ready for 60-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, and there is a small chance for a tornado. That's what I'll say. I won't go and show them all this other junk that can confuse the absolute living craziness out of them. But yeah, I love it a lot more. I love these new outlooks that the SPC's done. And again, by the biggest change is the fact that they can convey conditional risks now. Because they can convey, hey, there's going to be a high-end environment up here, but if storms don't fire, we're going to get nothing. But if they do fire, storms could end up being significant. And by the way, for day 3's outlook, they don't have any hatched areas yet. And I don't know if they will add any hatched areas. We'll have to see. I think we could see maybe significant damaging winds on the southern end, and then possibly a conditional strong tornado threat up here on the northern end. But it depends greatly on the timing of that front. The timing of the front can completely screw up this severe threat for Wednesday. Wednesday? Yeah, it is Wednesday. I didn't even mean to say Wednesday. That just slipped out, and it was the right day. Some decent-sized hail here. 1 inch, potentially locally a little greater than that, moving into Huntsville, Alabama. 60-mile-an-hour winds also moving through. So pretty decent severe thunderstorm one in there. Looks pretty dang good for a low-wind severe thunderstorm warning. Maybe even an embedded supercell in there. But thankfully that rotation is extremely weak. Oh yeah, I chased yesterday. I didn't even show you guys what we got. Let me get my phone real quick and show you guys what me and Lucky got. Can't show you the drone, but I can at least show you the photo I took. Let's see here. This should be good enough. Let me go over to the screen. I don't know what's behind this screen. So, tornado warning. Just got a tornado warning. We'll look at that in a second. I want to show you guys this photo real quick. Sorry, I have to hide the screen. It's just because I don't know what's going to pop up when I open it. Okay. It would have been fine. I didn't have to hide the screen. There you go. That's what me and Lucky got. And this was actually outside of the general thunderstorm risk. It wasn't anything too insane, but I mean, for a non-general thunderstorm risk, it was really good. And I do think it actually had a little wall cloud with it, because on radar it had rotation. It's just we couldn't stay and watch it for long because it ended up getting rain wrapped and it was moving really quick. Oh, it's the southern storm. Uh what are you guys talking about? This is the CC drop? What? Am I missing something? What am I missing? On Saturday, was it in general chat? I actually didn't see those, no. I always love when clouds have like that sharp cutoff. See, like on the photos you took, Legacy, it's always really cool where it goes from like that shelf cloud look and then there's an indent just above the main shelf and then it goes to the flat sky. I love shelf clouds. From earlier, yeah, the CC just before we started stream. I haven't seen any reports from that yet. I haven't seen anything confirmed from it, so it just it matched up very well. So I do think it was a possible tornado. That was just before the first tornado warning. But yeah, we do have a new tornado warning. Let me refresh that overlay. It always decides to bug when a tornado warning gets issued. A new tornado warning for Pricedale in south central Mississippi. Actually, almost fell for that corruption for a second because it was red and blue very close to each other. Almost fell for that for a second there. That storm does need to be watched though because it has a nice smooth indent to it there. So all it takes is a bit of winds from the south and that can ramp up. And this is the storm that previously produced a tornado and was also previously possibly produced a tornado and was previously tornado warned. There was a good signature on radar that was a possible tornado. And then right after that, it got tornado warned. And then, I don't know, it's been like 30, 45, it's been like 45 minutes since it was tornado warned or something. 30, 45 minutes since it was warned, and here we are now. But there should be a big hail threat, big wind threat, and a tornado threat. Tornado threat with it is a little bit uncertain. Oh man, tell you one thing I hate about this time change, man. Everything comes in an hour later. It was up till almost 10 o'clock for the 0ZH yesterday. It's like 9, 10, and right around 9 o'clock when it was finally finished. Actually, I think 9 o'clock might have been when it started rendering. Yeah, I think it renders at 8:50. So I think it actually finished at 10. Here, we could do some easy math right now. 22Z renders at 6:55. 23Z, 7:55. 00Z, 8:55. So yeah, literally like 10 o'clock. Because I was waiting for the whole entire 48 hours to render. That tornado warning is outside of the severe watch, by the way, and it is also, I think, barely inside that 2% tornado risk. Good on the SPC, man. Still right on that edge of the 2%. Right on the edge of that 2% tor. I'm telling you, the SPC's been doing good lately, except for when it comes to exact bullseyes. Like that tornado in Michigan, that was a very rare instance, but they still had it in a 2%, and at one point it was a actually 2 sig risk. And then for Oklahoma, they had the enhanced risk too far to the southeast when clearly storms were going to be more northwest. They kept that 10 sig tor too far northeast, and it ended up actually needing to be northwest, like models hinted at. And then the day prior, they had the 10 sig tor in Texas, when in reality, the main risk was actually north central Oklahoma along a warm front. This is about to drop some gigantic hail here. They upgraded it to 1.5. It's probably greater than 2-inch in diameter at this point. I shouldn't say gigantic. I should say fairly large. Fairly large. Oh, it's actually got a hail spike, so it should be extremely large at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 2 inches, probably 2.5. 2.5 to 3-inch hail here might be falling. What does this say? It's been a hot minute since I've tried to find this. There you go. Yeah, this says 3-inch hail. Yeah. Wouldn't be shocked if it's 2.5, 3-inch hail falling here. This is about to go into Amory, Mississippi. They just significant severe now. Just upgraded it. 1.75-inch hail. I wouldn't be shocked if it's actually even greater than that. With such a solid hail spike like that, a huge area of CC, you ought to have some huge hail falling here. I still think it's greater than 2-inch in diameter. Other day, we had like a random 4-inch hail severe in southern Texas. I don't know if any of y'all saw that. I wasn't watching the radar at that time, but I got the notification for it. That was, I think that was in a far extreme southern Texas. When was that? I think, I forgot when that was. I don't know when that was. That thing's up to 78 dBz, man. Yeah, probably 3-inch hail here. Most likely 3-inch hail falling. Very, very high chance that that is 3-inch hail. Also, note that we are scanning like directly into this storm, so I think my pin's broken. Yep, let me get the stupid task manager. One of my biggest fears is accidentally task killing Streamlabs instead of the pin. Yeah, that's some... All this CC right here that you see, this is all hail. And this is a spike from it. Which means that this is extremely large hail. And I know there's a hail product on this. I just can't remember what it was called on here. I don't know if this is it. I mean, this might be it, because you can see it increases with the reflectivity. Oh, here it is. This is it. Yeah, this says 3.25-inch hail. I don't think it's that big, but I do think it is between 2.5 to 3-inch in diameter. If there is a 5% on Wednesday, it's likely either going to be around central Louisiana for prefrontal storms or back up into southern Ohio. Who knows? Maybe both. All right, there we go. A new scan that did definitely weaken a little bit. But at its peak just a couple minutes ago, wouldn't be shocked if it was 2.5 to 3 inch in diameter hail. Let's go back to that active tornado warning again. Yeah, not impressive. Honestly shocked they tornado won that. Pretty sure it was a dying storm. No, it's been maintaining. I mean, it's gotten smaller, but it's been relatively maintaining intensity. Still 1.75 inch hail on that severe thunderstorm warning. But yeah, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button, share the stream and the channel with your family, friends, social media. It's really, really appreciated. We will be live tomorrow, possibly a double live stream. So just make sure you have that notification bell set to all. We'll have to see. We may go live at roughly 4 p.m. and then live from like 4 to 6 and then start up again towards 9. Or we may just stay straight through the whole event. We'll just have to see. I am unsure. Heard the tornado warning noise, but didn't get the update. I don't think there's a new warning. I think that just updated and just didn't fully show up. Yeah, there you go. Little disk extension. I'm hoping it won't be another long stream. I might try to sneak in towards the peak of the event. Yeah, so we're just waiting to see this storm. Make sure it's still on a weakening there with that hail. Good. Yeah, still likely at least 1.75 inch hail moving into Big B. Spelled exactly how it sounds. And Armory. I keep wanting to say like Amory. Okay. Yeah, that tornado warning has just over 3,500 people in it, by the way. Just over 3,500. So a lot of people in that tornado warning. I figured, yeah, probability of debris. This thing's thinking like 100%. Typically, this product has problems with hail. I wanted to look at that because I'm like, you know what? I bet the probability of debris is pretty high right now. It's not actually debris, it's hail. No, not 300,000 people. Not that many people. 3,500, just over 3,500 is still a lot, but it's not as much as 300,000. I remember the one of the more populated warnings we tracked was that one up in Chicago like a year or two ago. That was PDS. And then I'm pretty sure we had one in New York City too. I think we had a severe thunderstorm warning last year in New York City that was like extraordinarily populated. It was ridiculously populated. Yeah, so just if you are in Armory, just make sure you're in your safe spot. How was Reed? How was meeting Reed? Buddy, you're like a year late. What you mean? That sucker was almost a year ago. Armory, Amory, same thing. See, I'm not like Lucky. If I have to sneeze, I'm gonna mute my mic as I'm starting to sneeze. I'm not gonna mute my mic, wait a minute, and then the sneeze disappear. That's what Lucky does. He's like, oh, I have to sneeze. Leaves for 5 minutes. He did that in stream the other day. But yeah, meet and read was extremely fun. It was awesome. Skywarn class tomorrow. Good luck. It's very easy. If you've tuned into this live stream, you know, you've been in this channel for, Lord, like 5 years, 4 or 5 years. If you've been here for even 3 months, you'll likely pass with flying colors because it's that easy. It is extremely easy. It's very basic, bare bone knowledge. Most of the population here in the U.S. could become a Skywarn spotter easily. Only thing is, like, not many public want to at all. Not many people in the public want to. It shouldn't get canceled, Legacy. If it was on Wednesday, it would get canceled, most likely. From severe weather. But tomorrow, it shouldn't. You're in, what, like a general thunderstorm risk? It shouldn't get canceled. It should be fine. Go double check. Is it online or in person? Most of them are online now. Yeah, you'll be fine. Even if it's in person. It's online. Yeah, that's what I did mine. I did mine online. Gracious. I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary. Yeesh. It was May 23 when I got mine. Believe it was May. Check right now. Still got the certificate. Holy crap. No, it was March. 3 days ago. 3 days ago. 3 years and 3 days ago. I need to recopy that certificate. I need to print it out. That's what I need to do. I need to print it out. I don't think Tennessee will have it too bad on Wednesday. Wednesday still has a lot of uncertainty with it, but it should just be a line of some weak winds. Shouldn't be anything significant. I'm still yet to have the opportunity to become an advanced Skywarn spotter because the classes are so far and few between, and it's just difficult for me to remember. Let me see. Their next one is March. Might be March 31st. I don't know. Have to go look through their site a little bit more. Chattanooga, Tennessee, you should be relatively fine. Just a lot of rain. Yeah, a lot of rain. Very heavy rain, especially once you get towards 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern. I don't know if you're in Eastern. You should be. You're like right on that border of Eastern and Central time, aren't you? I'm pretty sure you are. You're very close to it. But right about 10 o'clock Eastern. Because I remember traveling through Chattanooga, and like we were really close to Central Time. And then we went down to Talladega. We got into Central Time. Good old Talladega. Yeah, about 10 o'clock Eastern will be the heaviest rain. It's going to start light here any second, if not already has. And in an hour, it's going to get even heavier. And then roughly about 2-3 hours from now, this very heavy stuff back towards Pulowski is going to be heading right for you. Maybe a few lightning strikes in there, but shouldn't be anything severe or significant. And then I would also be watching out for Wednesday. You're right on the edge of that slight risk. Like the city's almost cut in half by that slight risk. So definitely some rumbles of thunder Wednesday night. Probably heavy, light to moderate rain as well. But it shouldn't be anything too rough. But you are inside the risk for severe weather both today and Wednesday. There's a closer look, by the way. This light literally cuts Chattanooga in half. That's a level 2 out of 5. That's a level 1 out of 5. Oh, hey, look. I'm barely outside another marginal risk. Man. I don't think I've been in a marginal all year yet. There was one the other day that was literally like not even a mile or two from me. And then this one's a little bit further from me, but it's still like 5 miles from me. And then the other day, the marginal we chased yesterday, I went all the way down to Raleigh at first, but then we booked it west towards Greensboro. I actually got outside of the general thunderstorm risk where we got that shelf cloud. All right, let's go back over here. That was weather-wise that I was just on, but now I'm on College Due page. Yeah, so I don't expect anything too crazy from storms tonight. I just think we'll have some embedded large hail, embedded 60 to 73 mile-an-hour wind gusts. And then I wouldn't rule out a brief tornado or two still. Still radar indicated. But yeah, I'm probably gonna head off here shortly. I don't really plan to cover today. I've got to finish up stuff tonight. That way I can be free tomorrow. Very high chance I won't be live until 4 o'clock or later Eastern time. So just expect a live stream sometime after 4. Like I said, we'll either do one long stream or split it up. I'm hoping to split it up, go live from like 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, and then spark up another stream from like 8 to 11 or whatever tomorrow. So we'll see. But yeah, again, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, especially set that notification bell to all so you know when I go live tomorrow. Because these severe weather events, typically I go live within a 0 to 30 minute notice. So it's not typically that long of a notice. And you'll hopefully get that notification if YouTube does its job, which is pretty rare, but every now and then YouTube will do its job. So, okay, that's a fire warning. I gotta change that. Man. I thought we had a tornado warning in Texas for a sec. I gotta change that, man. What the heck? Thought that sucker was a tornado. I'm gonna change that right now, man. What the heck? Get rid of that. It's like, what's going on over there in Texas? Yeah, get rid of the flash there and change the flash to black, I guess. That will make it different. Make it stand out a little bit different from the pink and red one. I wonder if that's what beeped. I don't know. Did this update? Okay, no, it was the tornado one that beeped. Alrighty. But yeah, that's going to be it for this live stream. Just wanted to get on here and do a relatively quick briefing and a little bit of coverage there. These storms are still relatively low in severes, and they should continue that way. Just an isolated isolated significant severe instance will be possible, that being significant hail as large as 1.75 inch in diameter being possible, and wind gusts roughly upwards of 70, 73 miles per hour being possible. And so, yeah, I expect quite a few severes for some large hail and 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. And then, like I said, probably going to get another brief tornado or two later today into tonight. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you, Mods for Mod and Chat, everybody, for being here. I will see you guys sometime at or after 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Appreciate you for being here, and especially those who stayed here through the whole live stream, or even if you just tuned in, even if it's just right now, just being on this live stream for even a couple seconds helps greatly, and then the longer you stay, the more you help. And then appreciate you guys also for hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel. We've gotten almost 200 subscribers in the last week or so, which is the most that we've gotten ever since October last year. So I really appreciate it. Again, thank you guys for watching. And yeah, I got a whole nother minute to yap. I did it again. This time I'm not starting the music. I'm not starting the music a whole minute early like I did at one live stream last month. So yeah, thank you, Mods for Mod Chat. Thank you, Pete, for modding, and Legacy for modding, as well as Ben. I don't think I saw Catman or Caleb. Shocked I didn't see Caleb in here because he is in the 10 significant tornado risk for tomorrow. So I'm really surprised he didn't tune in. He might be wrapping up school or something. But yeah, appreciate the Mods for Mod Chat again. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in. And I will see you guys sometime at or after 4 p.m. Eastern. It just simply depends on how things trend tomorrow morning. If things trend a little bit sooner, we'll go live at 4. If they trend a bit later, who knows? Maybe we won't go live till after 6 p.m. or so. Thank you, Catman, for modding too. You're right. Catman was in here. I remember seeing his username. So, yeah, stay safe. Watch the severe weather. Catch you guys sometime in tomorrow's live stream, likely after 4 p.m. Eastern. And, yeah, stay safe. Watch the severe weather. Good. Bye. stay safe, watch the severe weather. I'll see you guys at or after 4 p.m. Eastern. Have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.